Hey guys.
Did
Did you have a good week so far?
So far.
Alright, anyway. So, today we're talking about brothers. I was going to name this session, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But then I decided that I didn't want to deal with copyright. So, we're going
You
to.
could just put an H after O.
I mean, yeah. So, we're just going to call it, Dear Brother, Where Hast Thou Gone?
Oh, brother, where art thou going? Been done.
But
And schmutz.
or I also thought about possibly calling it My Brother's Keeper. But
Am I my brother's keeper?
yeah, Am I My Brother's Keeper? That was another possible title. I'll have to workshop it. Anyways,
Where's the problem?
so what we did this week is we all picked a set of brothers and we researched them. So we're going to be talking about that particular set of brothers that we researched and how they impacted both biblical times and modern times. And let's start with a prayer. Who wants to pray us in?
You not paying attention.
I'm paying attention. I was looking at something for what I was.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day and for allowing us to gather here together in your name and to learn about your word and worship in your spirit. And guide us as we go through our journey tonight and help us to find good insights and say the words that you want us to say. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay, so talking about brothers. Brothers have played a huge role in the Bible in a lot of different ways throughout, starting with Isaac and Ishmael and going all the way through to Jesus and his brother James. His brother James. Yeah, I think it was James.
Yeah, Jesus and James.
Yeah. So we got a couple that we picked out, and we did some good research on them. And let's see. So Tristan, you picked Cain and Abel, right?
Yes.
Cool. So yours comes first in the Bible. You want to go first?
Okay, there are 10 bullet points.
I got pages, so we're good.
Okay. Well, being just the three of us, I guess time doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
All right, so Cain and Abel enter a world that is freshly broken by Adam and Eve's rebellion. Outside Eden, where survival is hard, spiritually fragile, and with humanity learning what sin even is. They are the first humans born into a fallen world, not created perfect like their parents. This matters because their story shows how quickly corruption spreads. Number two, their roles, symbolism, and occupation. The jobs they had symbolizes Cain the farmer works the cursed ground, represents human civilization, effort, and control. His identity is tied to productivity and pride. His name suggests forging, creating, and acquiring, which is the meaning of Cain. Cain is the archetype of the self made man who wants recognition. So he also has a lot of pride, which was said earlier. Abel the shepherd lives among fragile creatures, represents innocence, dependence, and spiritual sensitivity. His name means breath, vapor, mist, something temporary, which kind of foreshadows the upcoming events. Abel is the archetype of the righteous but vulnerable soul. Their professions aren't random. They foreshadow the conflict. Cain's world is harsh, competitive, and prideful. Abel's world is gentle, sacrificial, and spiritual. The offerings, the first worship conflict. So that's another first that they had was conflict or worship conflict, which both are right. It's both worship conflict and the first conflict. Anyway, both brothers bring offerings to God. Cain's offering is fruit of the ground, no mention of first fruits or best portions, except that I was always told when I was little that Cain gave the sickly and almost rotten of his crops.
That's assumed.
But okay, kind of like the apple is assumed. Okay. Feels routine, obligatory, maybe careless. So he does it because he has to, not because he wants to. Abel's offering, firstborn of his flock, the best he had, a sacrifice involving blood, which becomes central in biblical worship. And God favors Abel not because God hates farmers, but because Abel's offering reflects devotion, sacrifice, priority, sincerity, and Cain's offering reflects minimal effort, lack of reverence, a heart not aligned with God. This moment introduces a major biblical theme that God values the heart behind the act, not the act itself. And Cain interprets this as rejection, and his pride cannot handle it, which is why he went after his brother. And number 4, the warning, sin as a predator. God speaks directly to Cain, giving one of the most important lines in Genesis. Sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. This is the Bible's first description of sin as a living force. Predatory, patient, waiting, wanting to dominate. Cain is told, your anger is dangerous. Your jealousy is a doorway. You can still choose differently. This is the first moral crossroads in human history. So there's another first. But Cain ignores it. Number 5, the murder, the first human death. Cain lures Abel into the field, a place away from witnesses, and kills him. This moment is seismic. Yeah. The first death in human history is not natural, it's murder. The first murder is not random, it's fratricide. Violence enters the world through jealousy, not survival. Cain becomes the first murderer, the first liar. I don't know where Abel is. The first human cursed by God directly. Abel becomes the first martyr, the first innocent victim, the first symbol of righteous suffering. Also foreshadowing things to come. Number 6, the curse and the mark. God confronts Cain. The ground will resist him. He will become a wanderer. He fears revenge. God marks him for protection. God marks him for protection. This is crucial because God punishes Cain but does not destroy him. Justice and mercy coexist. The mark of Cain is protection, not damnation. But Cain's descendants become city builders, musicians, metal workers, innovators. Civilization grows from a murderer's line, showing that human progress and human corruption are intertwined. 7, Abel's legacy through Seth. Abel's death leaves no descendants, but God gives Adam and Eve another son, Seth. Seth becomes the ancestor of Noah, the ancestor of Abraham, and the ancestor of Israel. Abel's spiritual legacy continues through Seth, not Cain. This reinforces the biblical pattern. The righteous line survives even when the righteous individual dies. Number 8, the narrative impact across Scripture. Cain and Abel's story becomes the template for jealousy to violence, pride to downfall, innocence to martyrdom, divine favor to human resentment, brother versus brother conflict. Later biblical stories echo them. Jacob versus Esau, Joseph versus his brothers, David versus his brothers, Absalom versus Amnon, Israel versus Edom. Even the New Testament references Abel. Abel's blood cries for justice. Jesus' blood cries for mercy. Cain and Abel become archetypes. Cain corrupted humanity. Abel righteous suffering. Number 9, the psychological breakdown. Cain's inner world feels entitled to divine approval, interprets correction as humiliation, cannot tolerate being second, lets resentment metastasize into violence, chooses pride over repentance. Cain is the first example of a person who would rather destroy what reminds him of his failure than to fix himself. I know a lot of people like that. Yo, mother! And others.
Of course.
Abel's inner world is devoted, humble, unaware of danger, a symbol of goodness that threatens the corrupt. Abel's righteousness becomes Cain's mirror, and Cain hates the reflection. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. Number 10, the mythic interpretation. Cain and Abel represent order versus innocence, civilization versus spirituality, pride versus humility, human achievement versus defined acceptance, and the first battle between ego and righteousness. Their story is the Bible's way of saying humanity's greatest enemy is not nature, but each other and ourselves. So yeah, they were responsible for a lot of firsts.
So, quickly run down the story of Cain and Abel for us.
They were the sons of Adam and Eve. One gave the best that he had to honor God. The other gave whatever he could find laying around because God said so. And God favored the one who honored God more. And this enraged Cain, who took his brother out into the field and killed him. God came looking for him and asked Cain where he was, and he said, I'm not my brother's keeper. And God cast him out and told him that the land was cursed against him, and all else was history.
There's a lot of material. Like, the story of Cain and Abel is not a very long chapter in the book.
No, but it's packed with a lot of stuff.
But there's a lot of stuff in there. A lot, yes. The Bible doesn't say what was wrong with Cain's offering, but God does tell him that if he does well, then he will be accepted, which means whatever Cain offered, it was inferior in some way.
Right. And it didn't even have to be the shape of what he was offering. It was the shape of his heart when offering it.
Right, because, there's the story of the widow woman, and she had, 2 cents left in her pocket, and she went up to the offering plate and she put them both in. And, that compared to the rich man who had, stacks in his bank account and he only gave $1.
Right.
What you give has a lot to do with your circumstance and also your heart when you're giving. So yeah, so let's see. What would you say is the ongoing impact of Cain's action toward Abel?
What would I say to, huh?
What would you say is the ongoing impact of the story of Cain and Abel?
Of just Cain and Abel,
Just Cain and Abel.
I would say the ongoing impact would be sibling rivalry.
Sibling rivalry, definitely. You can definitely see the sibling rivalry in that story, so it's very clear they're the first siblings ever,
Right.
and they didn't get along. So, I don't feel so bad about arguing with my sister and brother. But,
Yeah, you can always be like, but did I kill you?
Right?
Did you die? We're good.
Right? But did you die?
But, yeah, so Cain and Abel, so Cain, for whatever reason, gave an inferior offering, and there's a lot of theories about, his heart wasn't in it. He gave, not the first fruits. He gave an inferior offering. However, it was inferior. Obviously, his heart wasn't in the right place if he was, doing it in order to seek approval instead of doing it in order to worship God. So maybe that's why it wasn't acceptable.
He may have just been going through the motions and he didn't really want to do it to begin with and just, have that mindset of, we still have to do this. Why? When we've already been,
Right. Or you could
Because
have.
daddy said so.
You could also speculate that he was, just thinking like, I'm gonna give this and it's gonna be so great and he's gonna like love me and accept me and approve me and blah blah blah. And then because he was giving it for approval instead of giving it in worship, maybe that's why it was unacceptable. We don't really know, but
Right.
yeah.
We just know that it was
it
unacceptable.
was unacceptable. He went out in the field to talk to Abel, probably to yell at him because it's his little brother. And it like this is the part that like my brain kind of goes differently than what the established story says.
Right.
Because when I'm reading this, it says Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Now, to me, that doesn't sound premeditated. To me, it sounds more like they were two brothers and they were talking and they got into a heated argument, and Cain maybe accidentally went too far and killed Abel. However, his actions after the fact still make everything that we say about Cain to be valid.
Right.
Because he still hid the body. He still lied to God's face, right? Am I my brother's keeper? He lied and he was prideful and he was deflecting. And, you're talking to God. I don't know if there's anyone who has ever lived outside of Lucifer and Cain who have had the gall to say, to look God in the face and say those things.
Yeah, because it could have been something as, just how many times in the world today does that happen? Just in yelling and arguing and screaming. And for his instance,
Yeah.
he just happened to reach down and grab a rock and clunked him in the head, and that was all it took.
Right.
And now he's sitting there, oh crap, what do I do? Yeah, I think it was. Didn't he hit him with a rock?
I don't know.
That's
Did
what
he?
that's what the cartoon said he did.
Yeah, I can't remember it now. I'd have to like
They
flip
weren't
back.
like they didn't really have tools back then. I don't even know how he was farming because they didn't really have tools. But
Yeah, but
or
with these hands,
he
he did
could go with his
miraculous things.
hands. He could have knocked him over and he hit a rock on the ground or a sharp object.
Yeah, but either way, it's still that moment of just anger And that still carries over into today and
Absolutely.
happens so much that that one moment of anger, and
Ruined your whole life. How many
now they're
people?
sitting here with, oh god, oh goodness,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do, what do I do?
How
And
many
that's
people?
when all the problems come in, because they start thinking, how do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And oh, we'll just say it was this, and I don't know nothing. Where are they at?
And how many people are sitting in prison? I'm sorry, I keep yawning. How many people are sitting in prison right now, for the exact same thing? Their anger got the best of them. They reacted in the moment, and now their future, their life is forever changed and altered because of it. You know?
Yeah,
So they were the first ones with moral conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, I
exactly.
would
And
definitely
then,
say that Cain, it even kind of touches on it within the remainder of the story, that Cain definitely had some moral conflict going on in his life after he did what he did.
and that just continued down the line for humanity.
Right.
That started that
Yeah, we
path
didn't say he
for,
was the last. He was the first.
yeah, that whole bit started that path for humanity of, here it is. Now we've got to deal with these consequences, as it were,
Yeah.
to those actions.
So, yeah, so definitely. And then, so Cain, he says, God says, "Where's your brother?" And just like any parent would come in and be like, "Where's your sister? Where's your brother?" And Cain basically answers the same way that all siblings answer when asked where their other sibling is. I don't know. Not my day to watch him. I don't know. I'm not my brother's keeper. like Cain, like Cain is a very relatable character person in the Bible to me, because I feel like for one, he gets the bad reputation by nature of the story and the way it's told, but I also feel like he kind of is carried through the story without actually making any real decisions about how it plays out.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? Like, I don't think he chose to kill his brother. I don't think he particularly chose to give a bad offering. I don't think he's trying to do these things. They're just kind of in the moment. He's very impulsive, and he pays some really severe consequences for that. And we, as humanity, are still paying some of those consequences today.
yeah,
So, definitely like talking about Cain. Definitely and Seth. Seth is the unspoken hero of the story, right? like Seth comes in at the end of the story and he's like fresh faced and he's all innocent and he carries on the legacy of humanity, and so all of us are actually ancestors of Seth. And he carries on the legacy that goes down. Did you know, if you read the Begats, and this is why you should read the Begats, but you shouldn't read them just in the context of reading through the Bible. You have to actually put your mind on, I'm going to study the Begats specifically. Because if you follow the Begats, they tell you that they trace the lineage from Adam to Noah to Moses, down to David, and down to Joseph, and even down to Jesus. It's all one family tree. Every notable character in the Bible is on that family tree, and it's all listed in the Begats.
yeah.
Like everyone, like even King Saul, all of them, all in that family tree. Just down the line. All right, cool. So,
They also established the chosen younger brother motif
mhm, mhm, and that's
from Abel to Seth to Noah to Shem to Isaac to Jacob to
yeah,
Joseph and David.
definitely, definitely. And isn't it funny? Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? That like my brothers are Jacob and Esau, and I'll go into that here in a second. But isn't it ironic that after this story of Cain and Abel, it is almost 100% the youngest child of the family that becomes the iconic figure and that carries on the tradition? It's almost like the oldest child is being eternally punished because of Cain.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even in our own families, the youngest child's always the favored child.
The baby of the family always becomes the favored slash golden child most of the time.
Most of the time. Obviously, not all the time, Tristan. But in my case, I was not the youngest cousin, but I was
I was
the.
favored by my grandmother.
Well, good. You're favored by us. We love you, buddy.
But my dad favored my oldest brother more than the other two. And then mom favors my oldest brother and my sister. Because that's all she ever wanted was a boy and a girl. And now she finally has it.
I'm the youngest of my siblings on both sides, but I'm not the youngest cousin. But regardless of not being the youngest cousin, I'm actually like smack in the middle of the cousins' family, like in their age wise or whatever. But I was the favored
And
child,
then this person.
probably mostly due to the fact that my heritage is slightly different than the rest of my family. But
Yeah.
Out of all the cousins I know, I'm the youngest anyway.
that and the fact that my mom just told every single person she met that I tested with a genius IQ when I was a kid. So everybody just expected ridiculous things from me from a very early age. But anyway, so yeah, so the youngest son, the whole youngest son trope is definitely first shown in the Cain and Abel story. And isn't it weird? So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how if the Bible isn't true historical fact, then why does it coincide so well with human nature now? Like, why, like people are always asking, like, well, why is this? Why is the youngest child the favorite child? Why is the oldest child always this and this? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Well, like, stories like this clearly explain how that came to be.
You can take just about at not just about, I mean, at this point you can absolutely any situation and anything where people are going, well, why is that like this? And find a direct correlation in the Bible that says, there you go, because they did that.
Because this happened. Yeah.
Mhm.
Facts.
Mhm.
Facts.
They did that, and this was what God did in response. And now we have to live with it.
So,
The
yeah, like, there it is. There it is.
rules were all laid out right here, and somebody said no, and here we go.
You didn't do it. They didn't do it, so no, we don't do it. That's how it goes. So, Cain and Abel. Tristan, do you have any summarizing thoughts?
Um, Summarizing thoughts, they introduced the core human struggle. They introduced jealousy, anger, violence, moral choice, and consequences. Uh, uh, yeah.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Lots of
Yeah.
stuff. Awesome.
They also showed how sin is a force and not just rule breaking, is something that hunts humanity.
Yeah.
Because God told him it was knocking on his door, and he could have chose to not. He could have chose to not listen to sin and heed the warning, and yet he didn't.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. He could have. That's exactly right. He could have chosen not to do it. Even if it was an accident, he still could have chosen not to let it get to the point where he's wanting to do violence. He could have chosen.
Right. Like a lot of like people today, when they start arguing and they feel it getting to, and some
And they walk away.
are aware enough to walk away.
Yeah, you walk away. Walk away, take a breath, regroup, and everyone's calmed down. You just described the first few years of my relationship with my husband. We used to never fight it out. As soon as we started having a conflict, we would walk away, think it through, and come back and talk it out later.
Right.
So, cool. So we did Cain and Abel, and conveniently, because that's the way the Bible set up. Conveniently, Cain and Abel segues right into my brother's story, which is Jacob and Esau, and they're so like you said, there are so many parallels from the Cain and Abel story going into the Jacob and Esau story, um, such as Esau is a hunter, not a farmer, but Jacob is is a shepherd, and so there's that shepherd. The youngest son is the shepherd. Jacob stayed home and tended the flocks while Esau went out to hunt. And so, therefore, Jacob was the favored son around the household because he was there. He was his mom's favorite son. And Esau was the hunter, the gatherer, and he was, the manly man. So he was dad's favorite. Right. So Jacob and Esau. So the thing about Jacob and Esau is that they had a conflict before they were born. They were fighting, right?
Because they were twins.
Because they were twins. They were in the womb together. So in Genesis, in chapter 25, and I've got a blurb here that I highlighted, chapter 25, and it's verse 22 if you're wanting to find it. But it goes, the children struggled together within her, and she
You mean like
said,
taking your phone over there?
Yeah, I may have to do that so that I can hear it.
She was like, I wish there was a way that I could hear better. Like taking your phone to the kitchen.
Okay, so the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it is thus, why is this happening to me? So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, the older shall serve the younger. So even before they were born, there was prophecy about these two brothers, and the prophecy was that the younger would rule over the older, the younger being Jacob, the older being Esau. So before they were born, Rebecca was kind of clued in. Right? She picked Jacob as her favorite conveniently after the Lord told her that he was going to be the ruler. But similar to how he came to Mary when she was pregnant. When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. So we all know that Esau means red, or if we don't, now we do. Esau means red. And so they named him Esau, which is red. But Esau also means like distasteful, according to my study Bible. Let me make sure I'm reading that right. Yeah. It's over here. Sorry, I'm looking for the spot that I marked that said what I was trying to say. Make sure I'm reading it right. Anyway, Esau means like red, but it also just kind of means like discarded. Like from birth, they knew he wasn't going to be the man, so Rebecca was kind of like, "Oh, look, a baby," and handed him off to the maid. Went on about her day. Jacob means to grasp or grasping, and he was named that because he supposedly was holding on to Esau's heel when he came out of the womb. That is actually a reference during that time period that means deceptive. That was one of their colloquialisms back there, and they would say he's grasping at someone's heel. So that was kind of, I don't know if that actually happened or if that was just alliteration, but that was a really, or not alliteration, but hyperbole, but that's what that means. He came out grasping. He was grasping the heel of Esau, meaning, he's deceptive. He's also like, it. He's he's clearly trying to take from his brother, even from birth. Follow, pulling on his heel. Jacob also means beloved of God, and both of those meanings of his name play out during the story. So, Jacob and Esau were born. They grew up, and Esau became a hunter, and he was Isaac's favorite because he was a hunter, and he brought Isaac some sort of special meat that he caught that was Isaac's favorite meat. And Jacob became a shepherd. He was Rebecca's favorite, and so he was a mama's boy. And he stayed at home, and he was a shepherd. So they grew up, and I'm guessing they didn't grow up to be close to each other. They were just kind of live their own life kind of thing. But Esau, being the oldest son, he would have been the heir of the whole, and the whole compound. I don't know what you would call it. Isaac was rich.
Nation.
Well, I mean, yeah, ultimately the whole nation, because Abraham was promised the nation through Isaac. But Esau was supposed to be the heir. He was supposed to get the birthright, which would have been the material, physical inheritance that came down to him from Abraham to Isaac, and then should have passed on to Esau. And also, he was the heir, as in he was supposed to get the blessing that was passed down from Abraham to Isaac, to be the father of many nations. That was supposed to be Esau. All of that was supposed to fall to Esau. But there was this moment, Esau was out and he was hunting. He came home, he was cold, he was tired, he was exhausted, and Jacob happened to be making stew. Okay? And Jacob had stew and he had fresh baked bread and it looked amazing, and Esau was tired and he was like, "Give me some of that stew." Right? Jacob tells him, "I will give you some of my stew. I will share my food with you, but only if you give me your birthright." Right? And I don't know what was going on in Esau's head. I don't know, maybe he thought the birthright wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe he didn't think that Jacob would actually call him out for it. But Esau said yes. Esau gave away his birthright, which is his entire physical inheritance, for a bowl of stew. So that kind of points to that whole, like, if it meant something to you, you probably wouldn't have given it away for something so trivial.
Right. Unless you were that hungry.
I mean, even if you were that hungry, you're going to give away your whole inheritance for one bowl of stew.
Well, I mean, if you starve to death, you're not going to get it anyway.
I mean, but he was coming in from the field, so he was probably had game. He could have just cooked it and ate it himself. All right. So that's how Jacob stole Esau. He didn't steal Esau's birthright. Okay, so we always say Jacob stole Esau's birthright. He didn't steal Esau's birthright.
They just stole the blessing.
Right. Esau gave that birthright away. He just handed it away. He said, yeah, you can have it. I don't care.
But he tricked the dad into giving him the blessing.
Mm-hmm. So Jacob already had the birthright, right? The physical inheritance and everything, and so Isaac had no choice. He had to abide by the rules of their laws and everything. So Esau gave his birthright over to Jacob. Isaac had no choice but to leave everything to Jacob, and he did not like that. He was not happy about that because Esau was his favorite son. So Jacob and Esau both got older, and Isaac got older, and he went blind in his old age. He couldn't see. So he calls Esau to him, and he's basically saying, like, "Look, my time's about up. I'm not going to be on this earth much longer. Before I go, I need to give you the blessing." And he doesn't just mean, go forth, young one, and be prosperous. He means the actual, like, promise that God gave to Abraham, and then Abraham passed on to Isaac. He now has to pass it on to one of his sons. So he tells Esau, "Go out and take your bow and basically kill whatever the beast was and make my favorite food. Bring it to me, and I'll give you my blessing before I die." So Esau's like, "All right." I was going to go hunting anyway, right? So he leaves, he goes hunting, but Rebecca overheard all of that. And Rebecca is very rarely talked about in this story, but Rebecca is an instrumental part of this. Because, one, Rebecca got the prophecy, so she knew from day one which one of her kids to, like, to root for. Two, Rebecca didn't trust God to follow through with the prophecy that he gave her while her babies were in her stomach. And so the next things that happen is all because of Rebecca. So Rebecca overheard Isaac tell Esau about the blessing, and Rebecca said, oh no, that's the wrong son. We can't have that. And she didn't trust God to take care of it, so she went to Jacob. And she told Jacob, go out to the fields, kill your best lamb. She's like, take the meat, make the stew, take the fur, the wool, and, bind it to your arms and your back or wherever they were open skin, right? And then go in and serve your father. Tell him that you're your brother so that you can get the blessing instead of Esau. So there's like so many like psychological things going on there that's not even funny that she would actually betray her own child like that. That's kind of heinous, but women do that all the time. I guess they pick one child
Yeah, I was
over
gonna
the
say
other.
that still happens all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I like this one better. How dare you? So we'll deceive and
Yeah.
connive and disguise yourself. No, this is this daughter or this son or this whatever, and steal whatever was rightfully the other child's.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, so apparently, so that's, I guess that's a really common, well, I guess not really common, but that's a thing that happens. Parents will choose one child over the other and they'll lie and deceive in order to support the one child. But so Rebecca comes up with this huge elaborate plan so that Jacob can steal Esau's blessing. And so Jacob, he's like, all right. So he goes out, he does exactly what his mom says. He takes the stew to Isaac. Isaac says, come here and let me see you. He touches Jacob. He feels the lamb's wool. He says, oh, you're my son Esau. He eats the stew. He gives the blessing to Jacob. The blessing, of course, that was passed down to him from Abraham. And it says, hold on. See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who bless you. So that blessing is not like the blessings that we would have gotten from our parents that were just like words. But that blessing actually carried the weight of God's promise with it. So for him to actually put that on Jacob, that actually was, God, because God always follows his word, now has to honor what Isaac just said to Jacob, right? Because that was a holy vow. So Esau comes along. So Jacob gets the blessing, and he goes. He tells his mom, like, "Mom, I did it," and she's like, "Yay!" And they have a little happy dance, whatever they do. Esau comes home from the hunt, and he got the game. He made the soup. He goes to his dad, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm here. I'm Esau, your firstborn son." And Isaac's like, "And I gave your blessing away because I thought that Jacob was you, and he impersonated you. I gave him your blessing." And Esau's like, "But can you not bless me at all? There's nothing left for me. You gave it all to him, and there's nothing left for me, right?" And so Isaac basically tells him, like, "Look, dude, you gave away your birthright, and now he took your blessing that I was going to hand down to you. So, yeah, he took it all. But this is what I have left for you. And he gives a blessing to Esau too. And the blessing that he gives Esau is, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. So Esau's blessing doesn't really sound like a blessing, kind of sounds like a curse. But that's the blessing that he gave Esau. So that sent me on a rabbit hole, and there's a third part to this story, but I'll get to that after the rabbit hole. So that sent me on a rabbit hole because God gave Esau his own people. He had a nation, the Edomites, right? Edom is another name for Esau. Edom means red or discarded. That's where I was coming. That's where that came from. They were the discarded ones. They were cast aside. They lost their blessing and their birthright over some stew. And the Edomites, this is where I went down the rabbit hole. So the Edomites being Esau's children. So what I wanted to know was, and this is, I literally just printed out my Google AI responses. So bear with me. It was a rabbit hole. I wanted to know, where were the modern descendants of Edomites and Esau, right? So, according to what I got here, it says opinions on the modern descendants of the biblical Edomites vary widely across historical and religious and cultural traditions, as the ancient group largely assimilated into other populations rather than surviving as a distinct ethnicity. Now, it says here that during the Hellenistic period, which would have been Helen of Troy, just to make sure that everybody is on the same timeline, that would have been during the Greco-Roman era when Troy existed and they had a leader named Helen. The face that launched 1,000 ships or whatever it's called. And
Right.
Right.
what'd you say? What's up, Tristan? Sound like you had something you wanted to add.
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I tried to have visual aids. Anyway, during the Hellenistic period, the Edomites moved to the southern Judea, known as Idumea. They were militarily conquered and forcibly converted to Judaism by the Hasmonean dynasty during the 2nd century BCE. Following the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, 1st century CE, the Idumeans ceased to exist as a separate ethnic and political entity, blending entirely into the broader population of the Levant. So the Edomites became the Idumeans that were then conquered and forced to convert to Christianity, and then apparently ceased to exist because they intermarried with other people in the Levant. So that brought my rabbit hole to the next question. Who are the people of the Levant? Right? And that's where the map came in. Because the people of the when they talk about that area, the Levant, there is actually a geographical area. Let's see. There it is. I'm gonna pull up the map. Why is that a different map? about religion. I'm not trying to talk about religion. Okay, so, anyways, the people of the Levant are people in a certain region of the Middle East that is Jordan and Syria, mostly Jordan and Syria, but also Israel. And I'm trying to find the map that I had earlier. Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, that's the map I was looking for. Okay. And okay, join the share screen. Okay. So the red areas is the area that's referred to as the Levant. So if the Edomite people were intermarried and scattered amongst this area, then they would have been Syria, Jordan, Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon, and Cyprus, right?
Yeah.
So my next question was, of course, is the Levant another name for Palestine? Because looking at that area, it seems likely that it was. And this is what Google said. No, the Levant is not another name for Palestine. The Levant is a much larger geographical region that includes Palestine, along with several other countries and territories along the eastern Mediterranean. The Levant is a broad and historic and geographic term for an entire eastern Mediterranean region of West Asia. Includes modern-day Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and parts of Turkey. Palestine, a specific smaller region and political geographic territory located within the southern part of the Levant, sitting between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. So, what I gathered from that, and this could be, I mean, obviously I'm loosely interpreting, but what I gathered from that was that the Edomites, which were the descendants of Esau, interbred with the people who were already living in that region, which would have been the descendants of Ishmael. And between those two people, that's basically where we got Palestine. Why is that important? Why is that important? Because Palestine and Israel, which we know Jacob becomes Israel, are forever and constantly ad nauseum at war.
Yeah, they hate each other forever and always.
They can't get along. They won't try to get along. They don't even want to get along. And, you know,
which would also explain in a way that on a just about a genetic level at this point, why Palestine's always going, you took what was rightfully ours.
Right. And, you know, and if you look at their history, they kind of have a point, because Ishmael kind of got shafted when Isaac came along, and Esau definitely got shafted by Jacob. You know, they're not wrong necessarily, but at the same time, both of them committed their own sins, which caused their own failure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that in another book of the Bible? So and so shafted and so and so and so and so.
Yes, it's the book of Shaft. You've never heard of it?
But and that's exactly the problem and why they will forever and always be at war with one another. And why, in all honesty, the rest of the world should not be taking sides.
Exactly.
And everybody should.
In being food.
Exactly.
we-
Israel and Palestine fight because they're in it, or Israel and Palestine fight because they're in a domestic dispute. It's all about two brothers.
In all honesty, like I was saying, the rest of the world should step the heck off and let them. You know what? Y'all gonna do what y'all gonna do, and we're just gonna be out here and keep it from spreading to everybody else.
100%.
Because at this point, y'all need to figure it out.
Somebody needs to take Israel and
I'm trying to-
Palestine and put them in the get along shirt.
Right? Put them in the get along shirt. But because yeah, Ishmael getting shafted, as you said, by Isaac, and then Esau getting messed over by Jacob, and thus creating Israel and Palestine in the process. And
Mhm.
you took what was mine, but you screwed up and kind of gave it to us. So
Right. Like you can't really like
who was
sit
really
there, like,
wrong here?
it's kind of like, when the oldest sibling holds out the two pieces of cake and the youngest sibling chooses the bigger piece and then the older sibling gets mad.
Yeah, exactly. And
You took the bigger
there were
piece
two
and you
pieces.
offered it to me.
See, that'd be my argument. You asked me which one I want. Why did you bother?
Right.
That's what it all comes down to me, too. And they're never going to
They're never going to work it out.
figure it out.
They're genetically predisposed to not get along. So, yeah, you're right. Everybody else just should step out. Step out of the situation and just try to contain it. Just lock them in their room within the borders of their
Yeah.
little nation and just
Mhm.
walk away.
Just let them ignore what's going on. Just let them do what they do, because they're gonna fight, argue, bicker, kill one
Right,
another.
they're gonna fight, and ultimately, too, we already know how it ends because we've already read the end of the book. We already know that Israel wins.
Yeah.
Anybody who's rooting for Palestine, they're like, they're rooting for the losing team. They're rooting for the underdog, and it's in the book. It's in the book. It says in the end, Israel wins, Palestine falls. It says that. So.
Yeah, Kevin has thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he says that Israel, the country, is not God's people. The people of Israel, the person, is God's chosen people.
Then how would he respond to how it says in Revelation that the prophets will stand outside of the walls of the city of Jordan in the country of Israel? Because it says the place, not the people.
Right.
But yeah, so
But my deep dive said,
go ahead.
because I did a list of all the brothers and stuff before I had picked which one I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it said that one of the ways that Jacob and Esau changed the narrative was that they started a war between two nations.
Anyways, so I told you this was a big rabbit hole I went on earlier, so I'm almost done with it, I promise. But so the next thought that I had after I was looking into the whole Israel versus Palestine, you took my last donut situation that's going on over there.
You got the cake that I wanted.
I decided I wanted to know so the next question I asked was how many nations in the Middle East are in dispute with Israel right now? And the reason I asked that is because it said that the Edomites dispersed throughout the Levant, which was like multiple nations, not just Palestine. So I wanted to know how many of those nations that have those heirs are actually in dispute with Israel. So this is the answer that I got. Approximately 10 to 12 nations in the Middle East are in active dispute, direct conflict of, or have no formal diplomatic recognition with Israel. This includes active adversaries like Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, alongside Arab League and regional states that maintain a formal state of boycott or non-recognition. So, we are going to go back to that map. Let me get it back up here because I closed it like a dummy. Alright, share my screen again. Okay, so looking at that map, so they said, where did my list go? They said Syria, which is in this area that supposedly has Edomite heirs. They said Lebanon, which is also in that area. And they said Iran, which is not showing on the map because I think it's on the other side of Iraq. And they said Yemen, which is not showing on the map either, but I think it might be this little area, right? No, that's part of Turkey. But anyways, if you look here and you look and you see, like, if you think about it, sometime in the last few, like, I don't know, your lifetime, you have seen conflict with Israel and all of these red areas, right? So
Yeah.
So the the countries that are boycotting or do not have diplomatic recognition of Israel as a country are Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman, which are all on the other side of Iraq and into Iran. So basically,
Interestingly enough, those are all Muslim countries.
right, exactly. So from looking at that and looking at you could go back, you could check the Quran and find out if I'm right if you have the desire to, but the Muslim, the Nation of Islam is, in my opinion, the descendants of Ishmael, and the people of Palestine are the descendants of Edom, who is Esau. And the whole conflict in the Middle East just comes down to a conflict between brothers. It's a domestic dispute, and therefore it's not our business.
Yeah.
All right, so that was my rabbit hole, and now there's one last part to this story, right? Because at the end of their lives, Jacob and Esau meet up again, right? At the end of everything, Jacob and Esau meet up again, and it's years later. Jacob and they have Joseph, but they haven't yet had Benjamin, so it's before the story of Joseph begins. And Jacob meets up with Esau. So Jacob meets up with Esau in. I have another map. 1 second.
And then
I was like, you're lucky I didn't make the PowerPoint because I really thought about the PowerPoint. But I could make it in a PowerPoint because I know how. Okay, now, okay, share screen again. So Jacob and Esau meet up in Succoth. Okay, they're on their way to Shechem, and they meet up with Esau near Succoth. Okay, now the only reason I thought that was interesting and relevant is because this is Israel right here. And the cutoff of Israel is the Jordan River, which is right here. So Jacob and Esau are meeting outside of Jacob's area.
Yeah.
It's like a neutral territory situation. So you would think that since they're meeting up in a neutral territory, that they would be able to let bygones be bygones, settle their issues, and history would have been forever altered. But of course,
Nope.
that is not the case. So,
But what would we learn from that?
Hmm?
But what would we learn from that?
Forgiveness. I like saying I'm sorry. What's your little
Surrounded.
song? What's your song? We miss your song. Sing your song.
Sing your song. Forgiveness.
For torture.
It's more than saying sorry.
I'm gonna hit you with this.
Alright. Jacob meets Esau. So let's do this. Chapter 33 of Genesis. This is the last bit of Jacob's story. And Esau. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the servants and their children in front, then Leah and her children, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. He himself went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. So, right away, Jacob sees Esau and says, "Oh boy." Right? So his immediate first response is
Smushed it in the Bible.
secure the family, like secure the family silverware, right? He's like, let me gather up all of my kids and all of my wives and put them somewhere safe. And then he sends all of his livestock and whatnot on down the road. Like he's preparing to meet Esau and his 400 soldiers as if they're coming to attack him. So he's sending everybody away. He's locking up all of his goods and furniture and whatnot. And he's like, I'm just going to go out there and beg and plead. He goes to meet his brother. He bows 7 times on the way to meet him. So he's like, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me, right? That's how I think of what he was doing. But
And Esau was the one that was coming.
Yeah, Esau was coming, and Jacob was like, "Oh."
Did you imagine him watching? Like this dude's running up the hill and he stops and bows, and he runs and he bows, and he. What are you doing?
Right?
Are you tripping and falling?
Are you drunk? What are you doing? What's going on? Is too much wine over there, buddy?
What are you doing? What a crazy person.
But Esau ran to
Drunk.
meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him. And they wept.
So not even on his face. He fell on his neck.
Right. I mean, he wasn't trying to kiss him.
I wouldn't even begin to know what that would look like.
You know, that like, oh, come here, give me a hug. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, he fell on Jacob's neck.
Yeah.
It said he fell on his neck.
know.
Like, what?
I had to reread that too, because I was like, he did what now?
hurts.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Oh, I get it.
Because, like, I've seen scripture where it says he fell on his face, but how do you fall on your neck
Right.
without breaking it?
So yeah, I got that twice. No, he fell on Jacob's neck. So he comes up, he's like, "Bro, I haven't seen you forever," right? He's hugging and he's crying and he's like, "I missed you, dude." And Jacob's like, "What is even happening right now?"
Right?
Because
And here
Jacob,
I thought he's gonna be mad.
right? Like Jacob's expecting him to come in like a murderous rage, and he
Dude, don't even worry about it. Water under the bridge.
right, dude just walks up like, "What's up, dude?" Right.
Won't see no time. Wait, no, strike that. Reversed it.
And when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, "Who are these with you?" Jacob said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down. And last, Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company that I met?" Jacob answered, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." So, in addition to gathering up all his things and loved ones and preparing to face his brother who he knows he wronged, he also gathered up a very large offering to give to
Or bribe.
Esau. Like like paying him off. Like, here's I'm sorry, but here's some stuff. And he had livestock, he had gold and jewels, he had cloths from exotic places I don't even know. He had expensive things. And he put all of them like out. Like he was like, here's stuff, and look at all the kids and the big family that I have. You don't want to hurt me." Right?
Right?
That's kind of
And
how
you're
he
right, I
walked
don't.
up. He walked up like, "Yo, look, dude, I got all this stuff for you, and look, I have this huge family. You don't want to hurt me, right?" And Esau is just like, "I don't need your stuff." Sorry. Anyways.
Mom's back.
So Jacob's coming at him and he's like, "Forgive me, I'm sorry." And Esau's like, "What are you doing?" Like,
God gave me my own stuff.
right, like I have my own stuff, bro. I don't need your stuff. And anyways, Esau says, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Which that right there is a hugely magnanimous statement, considering the stuff that Jacob has is actually Esau's birthright to begin with.
I'll take my bowl of stew back though.
Right. And Jacob says, "No, please. If I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me." So, according to my handy dandy study Bible,
In a notebook.
handy dandy notebook, my handy dandy study Bible says that when Jacob calls Esau the face of God, he's referring to the fact that, like God, Esau forgave Jacob unanimously, like without any consequence, without any. He showed
Right.
favor to Jacob in that moment. Um, please accept my blessing. That is brought to you because God has dealt graciously with me and because I have enough. Thus he urged him and he took it. So Esau was like, "All right, fine, I'll take it." Then Esau said, "Let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are frail and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all of the flocks will die. Let my Lord pass on ahead of his servant, and I will lead on slowly at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children,
Look
until
at
I come to my Lord in Seir. So Esau's like, go on, go ahead of me. We'll go together. It'll be great. And Jacob's like, not so much. You go on
Yeah.
ahead, and we will follow you. Kind of low key giving vibes of, I don't want you at my back.
Pretty much. And like he's still just not trusting the
Yeah.
full forgiveness of, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything's fine. Sure.
Right. Because he's,
Yeah.
he's thinking, well, like,
Excuse me.
I feel like Cain probably didn't tell Abel he was going to kill him when he took him out to that field,
Right? He was like, Cain, what are we doing in the field? And he's like, oh, I came to kill you.
Right. I'm sure Cain was probably like, hey, look, I got something really cool to show you over here. Let's go.
Right over here, right next to this big rock.
Conveniently next to that big hole that I dug earlier that's shaped like a grave, but not a grave. I'm planting flowers.
It looks to be right size and shape of you, or I mean, a person, any person could fit in there.
Disregard that. I'm planting that. Don't worry about that U-shaped hole over there.
It's in the shape of a square. I'm inventing something called Minecraft.
Yeah, you don't notice that. You don't see anything.
Nowadays we have shovels, and look over there. What's that? Whack. Whack.
So
Oh,
Esau
look, a discussion.
said, let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. But he said,
A little quick game of whack shoot.
what need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. Jacob returned that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. So they were supposed to be they were, I guess they were both originally headed towards Seir. Then Esau wanted to travel together. And Jacob was like, no, that's sketch. And then Esau was like, well, let me leave some of my people here with you. And Jacob was like, nah, I'm good.
I'm good.
We're good.
Fool me once, shame on me.
Right. And then so Esau went on to Seir, which is where he was originally going. And Jacob changed course and went in the opposite direction and went to Succoth and built his whole family there. Like he never showed up in Seir after telling Esau he would meet him there. So
Because he's like, oh, shiny over there. A
right.
squirrel.
So even so, like this whole thing, like think about it. Like think about it. If Jacob would have just went with Esau, they could have worked their differences out. We wouldn't have the issues that we're having today in the Middle East. But he didn't.
Right.
He was suspicious of his brother's motives, which is valid considering, their history. And so he once again completely blew off his brother, like completely screwed him over, right? Because they were supposed to meet up in Seir so that they could work things out. And Jacob was like, nah, let's go this way. And when
About that.
But they took a wrong turn at the escalator and ended up at Target.
I mean,
And not Sear.
Turn in Albuquerque to get you every time. And yeah,
I hate when I'm heading towards Sears and end up somewhere else. like Radio Shack,
or Sam Goody.
Macy's.
right? That's where all my money went.
Let's just throw out all of the '90s shops that we went to in the mall. I mean, come on. Claire's,
I mean,
Hot Topic, Spencer's back when it was cool.
it's the only two stores we go to now at the mall is Hot Topic and Spencer's.
I quit going
Like,
to Spencer's.
occasionally we'll go to some of the sporting goods shops
I quit going to
and get new
Spencer's
hats.
because it got to the point where only the very front of the store had anything that I was interested in, and the whole rest of the store was like novelty items that I don't care to look at.
That's pretty much what we do is go and look at the new stuff in the front, because it's usually where all their seasonal stuff is anyway. Occasionally we'll go back to and look at the collars and the piercing stuff.
Yeah, and that is one reason that I do
Or
that
the
I would
purses.
go into Spencer's, because they do have a really nice piercing jewelry.
Because she likes to go in Hot Topic and look at all their purses and their chain wallet options.
Oh, Oreo has entered the room.
Cat tax.
Hello.
Obligatory cat tax.
So anyway, so
This
that's
is not with Smudge.
with Smudge. All right, so yeah, so Jacob and Esau. So that's kind of how that went. Never from the moment of being in their mother's womb until that is the last moment that Jacob and Esau ever interact. Jacob never ever respected Esau. In any of their interactions, he never respected Esau, and Esau never caught on to the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, he kept trying to be a brother, and then Jacob kept being like, you know what, dude?
Yeah, nah.
Really?
What?
He kept trying to be a brother?
Esau? Yeah, Esau was trying to be a brother. He was trying to have stew with his
He was like,
brothers.
word up, yo. Come on down to the hood.
I mean, you'll have to talk
A
to the black
brother.
delegation about that, but yeah. So
I mean,
Esau, he was like, dude, you're my brother. He came in from the hunt and he was tired and he was like, what's up, bro? Let me get some of that stew. You know, like, he was just being a brother. and
oh, a sibling,
a sibling,
not a
sorry.
brother.
Yes.
I thought he was trying to be a brother.
Oreo, look at him.
Down for the cause and all that.
Give him the look, Oreo. Give him the look. She says, nope, laying on the Bible. Anyway, so yeah, so Jacob and Esau, Jacob never did right by Esau, honestly, ever in their entire life. And Esau got the short end of the stick the entire time, and yet Jacob is the one who went on to be blessed, and Esau ended up, his nation got blended into the nation that was already forming. So
yeah. And the sad part is they're still doing it.
they're still doing it. What was that? Oh. They're still fighting over what amounts to like 20 acres, 20 miles. Israel is a very small country. It's only like this big.
Yeah. And Palestine's even smaller than that.
And yet, because Palestine, and it used to be a part of Israel, and they had to split it because they wouldn't stop fighting. But those two nations, Israel and Palestine, are still fighting over that same strip of land.
And who's more blessed than who, and who has the right to be the one that's blessed, and
who is
it just
yeah.
Yeah, who's the chosen few?
Harry Potter.
They're
No, he's just
all
the boy
still
who
fighting.
lived.
Yeah, but he says that in one of them. But I am the chosen one.
And then got smacked in the head.
Hmm. And there can be only one. But,
Highlander.
yeah, there can be only one. Um,
Like Tigger.
yeah, the wonderful thing about Ticker is I'm the only one. Anyway, so yeah, so Jacob and Esau. I think I'm done with that presentation. Do we need to talk some more about
Okay.
that? If not, then Desi, you're up.
Okay. So
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I went with uh Peter and Andrew, or Simon Peter and Andrew.
Pete and Drew.
Pete and Drew. Now at the point of their story where it actually matters and to changing the narrative of stuff is after Andrew had already been following John the Baptist and hearing the stories, getting all excited about the Messiah coming, and so on and so forth. He goes home and proceeds to start telling. At this point, he was Simon, telling Simon, all about this man that he's met, and he's listening to him preach, and it's just filled him up with it's amazing and it's great, and he's talking things are going to change and be different, and Simon's over there, yeah, okay, well, that's great, we got work to do. And because they were fishermen, they had to go out and go fishing and do their job because they had taxes to pay that were already behind and late before they ended up in a lot of trouble for not paying their taxes. And it's at that point where the major change happens. And it picks up from that point, and you can actually read this part of the story in like a couple of places. But Matthew 4:18 through 22, or Mark 1:16 through 20. And excuse me. And it says, now as Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, cast net into the sea, for they were fishermen. What?
Who's the net?
Just
And why they
random,
throw her in the sea?
necessary.
Anyway.
And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Immediately they left their nets and followed him. So that's one big change right there. They just, okay.
Ain't like my job anyway.
Right? They just, oh, sure. Random person.
So George came by today and told me that you and your brother were out fishing today. What's up with that? Dude came by and said, come with me.
Right? They just dropped everything. Okay. But the level of instant faith that takes to oh to feel the depths of Jesus's words at that moment. To, I guess to that's the only thing I could think of to be to have Jesus speak directly to you at that time and with a calling on it, knowing that, hey, I need you to come with me. So something changed inside them at that moment that they just went, something's different, and dropped everything. So there's one. So going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, and this is where James, the son of Zebedee, and John come in. So he picks up James and John at the same time. And they immediately left and followed as well. So, but as for Andrew and Peter, it's this. Let's see. The biggest thing for them was, or what changed things for them is that at that moment, religion, as it were, was cat was for the elite. So it was, for the here, where'd my other, okay, there it is. Jesus calling Simon Peter and Andrew to follow him was a pivotal moment that transformed the early Christian narrative from localized prophetic movement to a radical universal mission by driven by ordinary working class disciples rather than religious scholars. So that, because all of his disciples were everyday people. And the apostles, his 12, his disciples were everyday people. Exactly. Were random people that he, to our eyes, that he just picked up off the streets. Starting with Andrew and Peter. And these just random working class people that had no weight in society, no weight amongst the government, no nothing. They're didn't matter to it. They were low of the low poor.
Blue collar.
And here comes Jesus, the Messiah, that the prophet they've all been waiting for, and says, y'all come with me.
I'm going to need you, you, and you.
Yep. I need you and you and you and you. Y'all come with me. Hey, wait, what?
I think
I said what I
about
said.
the presence that Jesus must have had in order for these men to literally drop what they're doing in the middle of doing their job and just leave it all.
Yeah,
He gave them presents.
because this is how they made their living. Yeah, it was not only did it feed their own household, but it this is how they made their living.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I just said.
They traded their extra fish for other goods that they needed, and that's how it was the barter system back then. They didn't really have money per se, unless they were rich.
It also says something.
That is why they called it a trade.
Right? But that also says something for Peter's wife.
Lois?
Yes. Because, she had to be at home now alone while he went out and did
Do
this.
you think that they went home and told their wives what they were doing?
Well, if I remember, no, actually, I think he disappeared for a couple of days. But if I remember right, I think
'Cause,
Peter
yeah,
was the
even
only one
in-
that was married.
Even in Chosen,
Yeah,
Matthew showed up like a few days later. Where have you been? I met this dude.
yeah.
Did stuff, said things.
Why does this story always
I rolled with him for a
remind
while.
me of this scene in Across the Universe with Bono where he's like, "I am the walrus," and they're all getting on the
He
party
took
bus.
his seat.
They just
Yep. Just let go.
that's just what that reminds me of, you know, like they were all just like doing their thing and then he just came and he was like, "Come with me," and they were like, "Okay," and they just got on the bus and walked away
Yeah,
from their
okay.
life.
Yeah. But so yeah, that was one of the biggest things that like I said, it totally switched everything, and that's where people started fighting back so hard. And it was mostly the religious elites, of course, that didn't want to believe anything. All of a sudden, how dare you not come to us? We're so yeah righteous, and we follow the law. We preach your word, and how dare you not come to us?
They were
These people?
100% suffering from FOMO.
Uh-huh. So, but yeah, it's it, the call of the brothers, it is what they call it. It represented humble everyday labor rather than religious power.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Jesus very much wanted the humble, because it wasn't long after that he after he called them, that he did the Sermon on the Mount anyway, where he gave and all of those blessing, or say, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the gentle. The lowest are blessed, just as much as
The last will become first.
the last will become first. And he showed that, by choosing the lower class and the working class people to be his disciples. And it completely shifted the power dynamic. And obviously, the Pharisees did not like that at all, because
So would they be called the unpharisees?
yeah, exactly. They'd be the unpharisees. This isn't fair. Take our ball and go home.
One notable
Oh,
thing.
he worked on Sabbath.
Like you're right, and I think that obviously if Jesus would have come and he would have went to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and he would have ministered to them first, of course they would have been validated, but it also would have made the common people feel even more isolated.
Exactly.
Okay, Oreo, you can't just hog the spotlight. Come over here.
But look at me.
She says, but I cute.
Yeah, and another point was it created a universal message, moving away from the traditional religious center, meant the faith was for everyone everywhere.
Can we talk about Andrew for a
Which
second? I'm sorry.
uh-huh.
I didn't mean to just interrupt you. Go ahead and finish your point, and then we'll talk about
Oh
Andrew.
no. Okay. I was going to say I've only got a couple more of the bullet points there.
So here's the thing about Andrew. Andrew's only notable act mentioned in the Bible is that he went and got Peter.
Nope, there's two.
Ah, busted.
His other one actually was that he went and found the boy with the loaves and the fishes and brought him to Jesus.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I don't.
He
That,
found the boy that lived.
He found the boy that lived.
and he said, "Avada Kedavra," but no, he did not. Um. So yeah. So he had two notable points in the Bible. Good to know.
Yeah.
But the main thing he did was he went and got his brother. That was he became a disciple. He got to follow Jesus around and do all these things. But in essence, it kind of feels like he only got that position because Jesus wanted Simon Peter and he had to go through Andrew to get him.
Yeah. What?
A league of their own.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I see where you're going with that. Mhm. Mhm.
I'll go. She goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
Aren't we so glad
interestingly
that God
enough,
he went?
I say interestingly enough, Peter wouldn't have gone nowhere without Andrew anyway.
It sounds a
Right.
lot like what I just said.
Because he was barely believing in it to begin with.
And funny story too is Andrew was the older brother, and again, Jesus was after the younger brother.
Uh-huh. Because that point is where, it built the foundation. Peter became a core leader of the early church.
He was the
It,
capstone,
the
right?
uh-huh. And then the last one was it completely redefined leadership. The true authority in the new narrative came from faith and sacrifice, not social status or wealth.
Nice. And that makes sense too, because I mean, under the law, the richer you were,
Mr. I am the law.
the more corrupt you could be, right? Because you had plenty of extra goats and pigeons and doves and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, because we've talked about that before. And they had the extra goats and whatnots to be able to pay for their sins, and
Right.
whereas
So
the lowborn couldn't.
right. So it's not necessarily that they were more righteous than the people who didn't have as much. It's just that they had more opportunity to be forgiven because they had more opportunity to make the sacrifices.
Yeah.
Like people who were on the lower social strata had to wait for the 7-year jubilee to be forgiven
Yeah.
because they didn't
So
have
his choice.
whatnot.
So his choice of two is 2-4 technically when you add in James and John, that of some of the lowest of the working class, then that changed everything entirely for the religious status. And at that point, what was the status quo? Mm-hmm.
The poor become rich, and the weak become the strong.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Judge Dredd. I am the law. You have no
Mr.
idea
I am the law.
what was going through my head through that story. I had like the Terminator, come with me if you want to live. And then I was
Right?
thinking about like the magical mystery tour across the universe. Like there's so much. My head is so messed up. But anyway, but yeah, it was like that. Like like a modern day, person that would have that much charisma that would make people just drop what they're doing and come and follow them, like unfortunately, the only people I can think of that have that type of charisma are people who were not very good, like Charles Manson, Ted Bundy. um,
Right? As far as modern day goes, it's not pretty anymore.
yeah, it's not a really good idea to go, oh, you're shiny.
The
Let me
only
follow you.
Television evangelist to get you to send them money.
David
Whew.
Koresh.
the only good person that I could think of, right?
Billy
and-
Graham.
Well, yeah, there's one, but I was gonna say that could do that had that type of charisma, and I just had two go through my head, and they're both dead now, and that was Princess Diana
100%.
and Queen Elizabeth.
200%. But
Yeah.
even
And then of course you have Billy Graham. Yeah, very much so.
Billy Graham is kind of like a Pied Piper kind of person. Yeah, when he speaks, people listen.
Yeah.
What was that? Who's that other guy besides Billy Graham? Jimmy. What is his name? Falwell. Jerry Falwell. He had a huge church. Also, Pat Robertson. He had that huge church when we were kids. The people that loved the PTL. But most of them, Jerry Falwell and Billy Graham never got, it never had that big fall. But most of the televangelists eventually have some sort of a big fall because they get too big for their britches.
Mm-hmm. Or they're not good people at all.
Or they're just faking it, yeah. Or,
What's his name? Kenneth Copeland or whatever. Ooh, that man's scary.
Really? He was one of the ones that I liked that my mom listened to when I was little. But yeah, I mean, and
That one guy that wouldn't let the hurricane victims use his church.
Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He got too big for his britches. He
he's a
started out good and then that happened.
Whole other story, okay? We don't need to start on Joel Osteen. I don't even consider Joel Osteen to be an evangelist. I consider him to be a motivational speaker. So,
But I thought we were just talking about people with the charisma to have that kind of power.
yeah, absolutely. He has that kind of charisma, and definitely
He just uses it for
100%.
evil.
Yeah, he doesn't use it for good purposes. I can't say that he does. Yeah, really, it's hard. It's hard nowadays to think of anybody who has that kind of charisma to just walk up, or just, in modern society, it would be more like, a Facebook post or YouTube, or, if it's for someone who's under the age of 30, it would be like, X or TikTok.
Yeah.
They just popped up with one post and then everybody had to follow them. It's really, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head in modern times, as in someone who's active now, other than Joel Osteen, Oprah, who still has relevance even though she doesn't have a show anymore.
The Voice.
Active now. I can think of one person, and they're bad parts. I don't know enough about them as to whether or not they're using that for any kind of good or not. And that's Mr. Beast.
Mr.
Mr. Beast is 100% using his fame to promote himself.
Yeah,
That's why his name's on everything.
He's got that charisma that he'll make these. He can say anything, and these kids nowadays will drop it and run.
My kid does not like Mr. Beast, but definitely he
That's
has
good.
that.
He doesn't seem to go for trendy things anyway.
My kid is
Like 6'7".
yeah. He's not woke, but he's very aware.
There is a difference.
There's a difference. Yeah. Because people who are woke are actually usually not very aware or intelligent. They're just following a trend.
Yeah, I was gonna say woke
Yeah.
is usually Democratic views.
They're following a trend. My son doesn't really follow trends, which is good. He kind of does his own thing. But yeah, no, Mr. Beast, 100%. Like he's even got his own television shows now. He's like Universal and I want you to know he plans those.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
we know.
We were kids once.
He says, "Oh, you're streaming? I'm gonna have cameos."
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I totally didn't know your camera was on.
Oh my gosh, are you recording?
Right here where I'm standing and playing with the cat.
Yeah. He plans that. But yeah, so definitely Jesus had some kind of way about him for him to
A
just
godly
follow.
kind of way.
Well, obviously we know it was a godly anointing on him. But yeah, it takes a lot. People don't generally just walk away from their job to just go follow somebody across the country. Unless it's fish. But
Right?
To walk on water.
Fish is ironically named, I think, that band because they do that. They do exactly that. People just drop what they're doing and just follow this band around the country. They hang out in fields and just sit around talking and listening to music all day, and they probably, if I were to picture the gatherings that would follow Jesus around, it would kind of look like a fish concert. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, because I mean, it was at that point too that people just started following him everywhere he went.
Yeah.
So there was never not a crowd of people plus him and his disciples.
Right. The Grateful Dead and Fish come to mind for that because people quit their jobs. People walked away from their lives to follow these bands around. They didn't do that for Metallica. They didn't do that for Guns N' Roses. you know?
Right?
But somehow the Grateful Dead, which I don't like any of their music and I don't know how they got so famous.
Never did.
I can't.
Because they're famous more for their mascot and whatnot than their music.
I had my share of Grateful Dead bears when I was a teenager and I was on trend, but I never liked their music.
Yeah, I was not. As far as the music goes, no, I was not a fan. It just wasn't my thing.
And the same with Fish. Like, there's nothing wrong with Fish. There's nothing wrong with the Grateful Dead, but I just don't find their music appealing.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even tell you a song that was by either one of those bands. But
I got nothing.
Yeah, but there are people wrecking their whole lives and futures to follow them around the country. So they've got to have some kind of something going on to cause people to make those choices.
So
Yeah. So I don't know what it is, but if I like that's the kind of vibe that I would think that like Jesus's gatherings would be, right? Cuz he's walking around, he's doing his thing, he's got his 12 disciples and copious other people who are dragging like just following.
That's only one part of it.
What's the other part?
Well, he said that he's going to make them fisher of men. And when you're fishing, you don't just catch all day. You got to put the bait out there. You got to wait. You got to reel it in.
Yeah.
Right, but Jesus would
And
have
we
been the bait, right? And
Or putting his word out there. You put his word out there, and you wait. People come.
I mean,
and that's exactly what he's been
But you were saying
yeah.
that he just had disciples in a group from the whole time.
Well, no, I was talking about as far as at that point there were other people that just started following.
There was
Jesus
some
as he
point that it
went.
was just
Yeah.
well, especially when he was gathering his disciples, there wasn't really a crowd.
right. But I kind of think of his disciples as like his hype men. You know what I'm saying? Like his publicists.
Yeah. So they're the ones who go and put the word out.
Yeah, like they're the ones who went out and been like, hey, come over to this
Look, y'all should come and
girl.
see us at Mount Olives. It's going to be
Yeah.
JC and the boys live.
One night only, sold out. But yeah, I definitely think that
Get there early so you can get a spot where you can hear.
Andrew's claim to fame is that he was the first disciple recruited. But if you read that story, he actually was only recruited so that he would go and get Simon.
Yeah.
And then Peter was always jealous of John.
Well, everyone was jealous of John because John walked around talking about how he was the beloved of Jesus. And that's just
Well, because Jesus called him he was called the one that Jesus loved.
by John.
Joyce preaches on that a lot.
John called himself the one that Jesus loved. There's not in any, the only book that's written is in the book of John.
Which is why Peter asked Jesus about, what about him? Well, what's it to you if I let him live for 1,000 years? Or
Right,
because he was jealous of the way John was treated.
Right. Well, that's yeah, true. And he was jealous of the fact that that John was walking around going, "Jesus loves me." Who wouldn't be a little bit put off? You're all equal disciples, and I was recruited before you, bro. But you're walking around like, "Oh yeah, he loves me."
You're only here because your brother's here.
Right? Like, Jesus loves me. I'm the beloved. I'm the one that Jesus loves. And, like, I get where he was, like, he actually didn't mean that in a weird kind of way. He actually meant that as in, like, he's blessed, he's beloved, he's saved. But he says it a lot.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes like a bragging, right? Like he's kind of bragging.
Yeah.
He's saying like Jesus
Well,
loves me. I'm the beloved of Jesus.
Well, John and James also took that whole title of the Sons of Thunder a little much too.
Right? Because they didn't
Thunder,
have
lightning.
WWE arenas back then for them to be ready to rumble. So the Sons of Thunder kind of.
Right.
But yeah,
I was thinking more of Girl Meets World.
I missed that show. I wish they would have made another season.
With the rings they had.
Yeah.
Thunder, lightning.
Yes. Gotcha. Thunder, lightning. I remember now. I do miss that show though. I wish they would have made another season. Anyway, so Simon Peter, like honestly, he had a stick up his butt the whole time. he he really did. He was the second one recruited, and he was only second because Jesus had to send Andrew to find him. He would have been the first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus is God, right? Why did he already know where Simon was?
Because snowflakes.
I was fixing to say the thing about that is, you're right. He knew where he was, knew where he
But
was the
he
whole time.
didn't, though. He
But he
didn't.
had to play things out this way. It had to be played out in a specific
He
manner
did.
for
It
things
Because
had
to
to.
he
go the
could
way they
have been
did.
like, "Hey, Andrew, go to this place and get your brother."
Go get your brother.
But no, he was like, "Go find him."
He may have. I mean, he may have had some knowledge of beforehand of what he was doing. He may have done it in that order for a reason. But also, Jesus was God, stripped of all his powers. Jesus didn't walk the earth with omnipotence. Jesus walked the earth with the average intelligence of a human.
That is true, and he had to wait until the other piece of him gave him information more and more.
Hmm. So the other piece of him may have said, go here and get these brothers, and then Jesus just had to wing it. But because Jesus, he's an aspect of God. A lot of times we put a lot more, because Jesus did so many miraculous things in and of himself. And he is an aspect of God. Sometimes we tend to assign to him more power than he actually had while he was here before he died. Because he
Yeah.
actually was, intentionally born in the lowliest way possible. That's why he was born in a barn and laid in a manger. And he was intentionally made to grow up with a poor family, and he was intentionally made to experience this life. And in order for him to experience this life, he had to be cut off from his deity during that time. And it wasn't until he was baptized by John the Baptist, when the angel appeared above him and the dove and all of that imagery that's beautiful, and he says, he is chosen, he is my son, whatever he said at that moment. That's the moment where the Holy Spirit reconnected with him.
Yeah, and gave him at least a piece of himself back
Mm-hmm.
so that he could do what needed to be done from that point.
Right, which allowed him to do the miraculous, or do the miracles, and have the foresight that he had going forward past that point. But if I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, he recruited Andrew and Simon and James and John before he was baptized by John the Baptist.
Ooh, I don't know.
Let's find out. Okay, it says that yes, he was baptized before he called his first disciples.
Okay.
So he was baptized and he went into the wilderness to be tempted before he recruited his disciples. So he did not actually start his ministry until after he was both baptized and tested for 40 days and 40 nights before he ever preached a word.
Which, I mean, makes sense. We gotta make sure we can do this.
Right. And like I said, up until that point where the angel descends and, basically confirms that he is the chosen Messiah, he's just a kid. He's just a regular dude. For 30 odd years, he just walked. He was about, they said he was about 30 when he started his ministry. First 30 years of his life, he was just that that Joseph and Mary's kid, Joseph and Mary's oldest kid. He was a carpenter, worked with his
Yeah.
hands.
Until that day when he was 12.
Well, when he
Yeah, I
was
was gonna say he kind of knew that he was different and something was going on because he did those couple of things, like you were saying, when he was 12 and what was that one? When he went in, that's when he went into the synagogue, isn't it? Thank you.
That's when he got lost in the synagogue and they left without him and they had to come back and get him.
And he was teaching the teachers.
Right. So, and to me, that kind of is reminiscent of Joseph. Remember, how Joseph was going around telling his brothers, one day you're gonna kiss my feet. One day I'm gonna roll over you. One day you're gonna bow down to me. That's kind of how I feel like Jesus interacted with his younger siblings when he was growing up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the chosen of God. What did you do today? Because he was a kid.
And then nothing for 18 years. We didn't hear nothing.
Because he was a kid. But, and he did know. He had some foreknowledge. Because Mary was told before she ever even knew she was pregnant. And yes, Mary did know to just finally just verify that.
Don't stop picking on your brother. He's God's son.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Leave Jesus alone. He can't help it. He turned that water to wine.
Jesus, stop walking on the water and take a bath.
In the tub, not on it.
Jesus, I know
You can't tell me
don't
what
have.
to do. You know my real dad.
Jesus, I know you're not too sick to go to school today. You heal yourself. So get up and go.
Can't tell me what to do. You know my real dad.
Jesus, stop healing those squirrels. Come to dinner. But fun times, Jesus as a baby. But I mean, he did have a knowledge of who he was eventually going to be, but ultimately he was just a kid while he was growing up, and in the 20s of his life, the most in our time period, those are the most crucial years, right? Your childhood going through to your 20s, and then when you're 30, that's when you're finally like, oh, I'm an adult.
Yeah, it's usually about the time it actually finally kicks into your brain that, crap, I'm an adult and I got to do adult things.
I'm adulting now. I remember.
Buggers.
Cancel subscription.
Right?
Right.
Can we cancel this?
Can I abstain? I don't want to participate.
That's your free trial run is when you're a kid.
Yeah. Yep. And it's kind of funny that it kind of circled back around to where 30 is about the age now where you make that like connection in your brain of, oh yeah, I'm an adult. Probably shouldn't do this stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about the age that Jesus was when he took on that role too. And he said, okay, I'm going to stop just goofing off and making toy horses in my dad's carpenter shop or whatever he did during the day. And he went off to start his ministry. So
time to get busy.
This is a nice cross. My dad could have gave you a better deal.
Time to make the donuts and all. But yeah, so we all obviously Peter had a huge impact on Christianity that's, still relevant today. He wrote several of the books. And our Bible, he wrote even more of the books in the actual Torah from what no, he didn't, because that would be stupid, because the Torah doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. My bad. Scratch that. It's been a long day. Peter was the the Jewish disciple, I will put it that way. His job was to minister to the Israelites and convert them to Christianity, whereas Paul's job was to minister to the Gentiles. So that's why most of the books that we read are letters from Paul, because Paul's letters were much more generalized.
Yeah.
Peter's letters spoke specifically to his nation, the nation of Israel, because he was the capstone. He was supposed to bring them into the fold. And then there was Paul. What I wonder about, what I've always wondered about, is if there were 12 disciples, why are there only 4 Gospels? And why are the rest of the New Testament written predominantly by people who never actually walked with Jesus while he was alive?
Right? I've always wondered that. Why is it the 4 gospels, but there's 12 disciples? Did the others not know how to write?
They're busy doing.
And Mark and Luke are not disciples.
Yeah.
So why is there no Book of Bartholomew? Or, you know, James the son of Alphaeus, or
Because who would listen to the disciple Bart?
well,
my only thought with that would be simply because they all said the same thing, just from various perspectives. There may be a few extra gaps filled in here and there, but otherwise it was all the same.
right.
The
And
more interesting thing about that, though, is if they had done that, or if it had been that way, that would have just been further proof. More books to have, more books to find, and now you've got more firsthand accounts that just further prove it, and we wouldn't have the controversies we do today.
right. What's interesting is, even more interesting than all of that, is that the Gospels weren't written by disciples. Was, hold on, I'm about to tell you. Why did that pop up as the number 1 suggestion? The book of Matthew does not name the author of the book. However, it was not written by Matthew. It was actually written sometime later in the 1st century, after the apostles had finished with their ministry. All of the Gospels were written, none of the Gospels were written during the time period that they talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were kind of busy.
Yeah.
So someone else gathered it all up and wrote it down.
It also wouldn't surprise me if the disciples were illiterate.
I mean, honestly.
They were of lower class, they were working class. They wouldn't have necessarily had a reason to learn to read and write in that time period. And most of the people who didn't
And in that time
agree.
period, stories were passed from person to person anyway.
Verbally,
Nothing was ever
yeah.
written down. So,
Yeah, it would have just been the scholars and the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the upper echelons of the Roman society that would have had the reading and writing. The common workers wouldn't have had that knowledge.
so yeah, later at that point, it would be Mark and Luke that decided to write it all down.
So the book of John is the only one that's actually believed to have been written by an apostle. Um, the John of Zebedee. So
Yeah.
you know, but the other three books, uh, Gospels, are not written by apostles. And actually, only the books written by John and the books written by Peter are the only books in the Bible that were written by apostles.
Hmm.
And Peter didn't become an apostle until Acts.
No, Peter was the second apostle. You're thinking about Paul.
Thought he was the second disciple.
Is there a difference?
I believe so. So we were watching a teaching on that the other day that said that Peter wasn't an apostle until Acts.
Why is it that all of these questions are just coming up in my Google without me really having to type them in? That's really crazy. It's not like these are common searches.
Right?
Let's see. A disciple is a learner or student who follows a teacher, while an apostle is a messenger sent out on a specific mission. So you would be correct. They started out as disciples. They did not become apostles until after Jesus' death because while he was alive, he was their teacher. And then after he died, they had graduated.
Yeah, exactly. They graduated at that point.
And Paul was an apostle, but he was never a disciple. They did have a disciple.
That might be the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was Paul.
Because Paul wasn't an apostle until Acts, because the way that the person we were watching described it is somebody who saw Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul didn't see Jesus until after he resurrected.
There's a theory that the soldier at the cross, the one that pierced him with his spear,
The one in Risen?
yeah, that's a good game. I need to see if we can find that game somewhere.
I was talking about the movie. But yeah, the games work pretty good.
The movie was okay, but the game was killer. But yeah, there's a theory that the Roman soldier mentioned that was at the crucifixion was potentially Saul. I don't know much about that theory. I just heard it, so I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't
But
think so.
I don't know. I think it would be written in the Bible that way.
I mean, there's
And
some
then
of the
Paul grabbed the spear and stabbed him in the side.
just like Mary Magdalene. I believe if Mary Magdalene had been the woman at the well, then they would have mentioned her name when they told the story about the woman at the well.
Right? Yeah, I think they're two separate people.
I think they're two separate people, but it's commonly assumed that that's the same person.
put that under the column of fan theory.
Yeah, exactly. It's fan fiction. There's a manga about it.
Probably.
I wonder if they make religious manga.
You know, in books where you had to start from the back and work your way up.
Tangent. I wonder if there's Christian manga. Anyway,
But there could be.
I mean, we could always create Christian manga.
I mean,
that option is there.
Yes, Christian manga exists. Though it is a niche market often produced by independent creators.
well, I mean,
Duh.
manga
Well,
itself is niche.
Obviously. Yeah, and
Niche-y.
even amongst manga, manga being Japanese based, Christian based manga would be even more of an isolated niche.
So, have any details? How big was Jesus' samurai sword?
Jesus was a ninja, Tristan. Get it right.
So, was he a hoodie ninja?
He's a ninja. He's a hoodie ninja. No, that was Lyric. Lyric was the hoodie ninja. Lyric is still the hoodie ninja. Did you see that?
Nunchucks, tough luck, break your fingers.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that the only other set of brothers that I had pulled out, well, I had pulled out two other sets of brothers. I didn't know how many people were going to be looking, but Dusty was supposed to do Moses and Aaron. Do we want to talk about Moses and Aaron? I purposely didn't choose Moses and Aaron because I talk about them a lot. Just in general. Yeah.
They freed slaves and smacked innocent rocks for water.
Indeed.
Them poor rocks.
Them rocks didn't hurt nobody. So yeah, Moses and Aaron.
But Moses is like, I ain't talking. I'll smack a rock, but I ain't talking to it.
Aaron was Moses' older brother, and he was a Levite, which means he was a priest in the church of Israel, like the Israel's church or whatever, in the synagogue. He was actually a priest.
And he made jeans.
He made some good jeans. What do you think, Oreo?
I want to know what was wrong with the other 500 designs.
Right?
501.
I mean,
kitty. She said, I'm gonna get it.
So what's it?
What did you?
No, put your butt in the camera. Come on. Anyways, we talk about Moses and Aaron a lot. I don't really think we need to really address that. We all know that story.
Yeah.
You know, Moses was a stutterer. Felt like he was a murderer. He felt like he was unworthy. So Jesus, or God, told him that Aaron would come with him and speak for him. Aaron was a Levite. He was a priest, so he was pretty good at talking. And he was all like pious and wearing his robes, and he had that special like crown thing that they had to wear. And then the other brother set was Ishmael and Isaac, and we kind of talked about them the other week too. So I don't think we really need to spend a lot of time on them.
Yeah, since we had just kind of gone over them recently as well, for other reasons.
What's funny is that like when I was doing the Google search and I was searching out the brothers and everything, Isaac and Ishmael don't make the list. The people tend to forget that they're brothers. Like the way that the story is told, it never actually connects them as being related.
I can see that.
Even though, obviously they were both sons of Abraham ultimately, even though only one was the chosen one.
Yeah.
They were both his children. They just, he liked one more than the other one. And I kind of wonder.
And they got that whole brother from another mother thing going on.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder about that too, about that whole brother from another mother. How did Abraham really feel? You know what I'm saying? Because for the most part, he just kind of told Sarah to handle it, and then Sarah sent them away. But they never actually, say how does Abraham feel about the fact that that's still his child when it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, none of that was ever covered in the story at all. You know, how how did Abraham feel about his son getting sent away?
right. Like they
Well,
act
you wanted
like
me to do this,
like
and yeah,
it kind of treats
uh,
him like he was a modern day absentee father, like he did the deed, but then he didn't have any follow through with it. He's just like, yeah, that's your baby.
yeah, and no amount of nothing. No, hey, you wanted me to do this, but now we have a son. This is still my child that you're just tossing away because things didn't work out the way you wanted it to.
Right, you'd think that there would at least be a moment where he was like, wait a minute, this is still my child. Maybe I should not let her throw them out into the wilderness. Maybe I should try to provide for him in some way. But the way the story is written, it's literally like that. It's like Abraham was completely disconnected from Ishmael and everything to do with him. Like after he was conceived, he was like
Yeah,
it was done. Like even the way he handles the situation between Sarah and Hagar, like if you're a baby daddy and you're trying to deal with the mothers of your babies, you're probably, most men are going to try to mitigate that, and they're going to try to make them get along so that he can have access to both his children.
yeah. But there is a downside of when you're reading a story, the concept of time is lost in the story. So as you're reading it, it's like this. Oh,
I turned my camera off. You're fine.
oh, okay. So as you're reading the story, it feels like this is all happening in like days, where it could have been a lot longer than that or shorter. And he could have tried. And all that was written down was the part where he done gave up and said, "You know what? You deal with it."
I mean, it's true because Ishmael was, I think, 14 is what we landed on when they got sent out into the wilderness. So there was 14 years of, bickering between Hagar and Sarah. So you're right. It could be that, Abraham just washed his hands of it and he was like, yes, this is my son, but I have to stand by my actual wife, Sarah, so I am not going to be involved in this anymore, and y'all have to just figure it out.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, Abraham's parenting skills are just very iffy to me.
Right? Because he tossed one son aside, and then on just the words of God, here we're gonna go possibly sacrifice the other one.
Right.
To prove yourself worthy. Wait a minute.
Right.
My man.
Exactly. his parenting skills overall are just like suspect to me. Like,
It's not our good luck. You can make your drink.
She said after I sat down.
but if they, if it had been a modern man or any other man who had been in that situation, I feel like they would have maybe pulled Hagar aside before she'd left and been like, "Here's some money."
Probably.
Like, here's
And there was probably times that, I also would have thought that there would have been times that they'd pulled her aside and look, you're being a bit rude. Then
you gotta chill out.
you know what you signed up for. And this ain't it. Why are you doing all of this?
We don't really know in like what it was like in that time period or why there's a distinction between the wives and the servants if the man is sleeping with both of them and producing children.
Yeah.
Because like even like Jacob had technically like Jacob technically had 4 wives, right? Because he had Leah, he had Rachel, and then he had the 2 servant women, which
Right.
he
That's
also
true.
had children with. But why are the 2 servant women only ever referred to as the servants and never as wives when they should have had equal status with Leah and Rachel?
Then there's that.
And it's the same with Hagar. Like honestly, like I understand Hagar. I feel Hagar's pain because like she was just a servant. She was there to do what her mistress told her to do. Sarah told her to go and sleep with this man. We don't know the circumstances there. Hagar might have been completely grossed out by this 80-some-year-old man who wanted to sleep with her. She probably wasn't enjoying it. I don't get the sense that Hagar wanted to do any of this. It was just forced upon her by her status. And then
Right.
she has a baby. Technically, it should have elevated her status because she had a child by this man and his own wife didn't, but it didn't elevate her status. She was still a servant. And the woman of the house is not only that, but the woman of the house is claiming her child.
Wait a minute, I went all the way.
And then so she's fighting for her child, she's fighting for her status, which I understand because it technically her status should have been elevated, but it wasn't. And then she gets kicked out, sent out into live in the wilderness, and Abraham's like, "What son? I don't have a son."
Just talking about Willis.
The only son I have is this one over here.
Yeah. Gracias.
Abraham
Yeah.
doesn't ever search for Ishmael. He never follows up with him. There's never a mention of Abraham fathering Ishmael outside of the physical sense ever. Are y'all frozen?
No.
Okay. So, and also,
Oh no, just let it go.
do you want to build a snowman?
I do not. That's why I moved down south.
I do.
I'll build a sandcastle.
That's why I moved north.
Because you want to build a snowman?
Yes.
We could ride our bikes around the hall.
We can make snow angels and go sledding. we're gonna make an Olaf. That'll be great. And he can do whatever Snow does in summer.
I'm going to tell him, you better not.
But yeah, so I think yeah. Do we have anything else we want to talk about, discuss, pray about, whatever? Cool. All right, so Tristan, pray us out.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time together that you've allowed us to come and talk about your word and how the past affects our future. I pray that everybody has safe journeys to work and back tomorrow. That everybody gets a good night's sleep and gets well rested. In your son's heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us this week. We'll see you next week.